Welcome to the video blog, and my guest today is Joe Marchese, and like most people in communications, Joe has two parallel and connected lives. One is as the media, as an author of the online spin column on Media Post, and the other is president of SocialVibe, which is a very interesting company that's using social media communications in a whole new way. Welcome to the video blog.
Thank you.
Great. One of the things that caught my eye in your writing that I'd like to go over is the future of the agencies, and there's both ad agencies and PR agencies. Will they survive in their current forms, or do they need to change?
Well, I don't think there's a question that they're going to have to change to address social media. I mean, you look at the world of TiVo and more fragmented audiences and user-generated content, and just the fact that social media isn't a conversation between a person and a typical publisher. It's a conversation between a person and another person who also has a parallel life as a publisher. So there's no question that as we move more and more to this model, all media becomes earned media. And we talked about this offline. It's just a little bit of the idea that a PR agency has always known how to make a story relevant to people, to get it picked up, right? The agency's role is to almost get their brand picked up in social media, right? So earn it. The other part is about the nature of social media being a dialogue, and can the agency adjust to be a part of a dialogue rather than just be the voice? So typically an agency has been the voice of a brand. Buy me media, get my message out there. Can the agency adjust to a point where they're not just a voice but rather a listening post as well and bring it back? Because the future of the agency's margins and revenue isn't in bulk media buying. As a matter of fact, I would argue that bulk media buying and social media are oxymoronic. You can't do it because you have a lot of markets of one. So can the agency adjust to that? Because the role as a consultative element to say, you know what, we know how to get your brand in, and then we're going to listen and we're going to adjust and your brand is going to spread, and then we're going to listen and we're going to adjust and your brand is going to spread more, and your brand will become part of the culture.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I think that's a great jumping off point to explain what you're doing with SocialVibe. How does that work, both for the companies that benefit and engage in it and the consumer, the people who are doing the social media and spreading the messages?
Right. So what we've built with SocialVibe is really on this basic tenet of that people are in control, and it's funny to think that when Time did You as the Person of the Year, and you hear people say consumers are in control, people are in control. The funny part about that is no one says the consumer, an individual consumer, or the person is in control. It's the people as a whole, as a group. So what we wanted to build with SocialVibe was a platform that allowed people to choose which brands they wanted to bring with them into their social lives, into social media, but do it in such a way that it provided that feedback that was necessary for agencies and brands to continue to adjust.
So why would someone bring a brand into their life? I mean, sure, I might bring Mercedes into my life if they're giving me a car.
Right.
But I mean, why are someone going to bring a brand in this way into their lives?
So there's a lot of reasons why people would bring a brand. I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of reasons why people social network. There's validation and communication and self-expression, right? So all of those things brands bring to us. Every day people bring brands onto their pages just because they like them. The artwork fits as a poster on a dorm room wall. But really, if you think about the typical advertiser-publisher relationship, there's something in it for the publisher. There's something in it for the person who's going to share the brand. I'm Joe. I like a lot of brands. I would be willing to share a lot of brands. I'm not going to do it unprompted. I'm not going to say, hey, buy Pepsi. Hey, buy Coke. That's just not going to happen in a normal conversation. But if a brand can enter in a relevant manner to my side of the conversation, then I'm more than happy to share it with my friends.
So how are they entering relevantly through SocialVibe?
So what we do is, rather than the typical relationship being that the brand would pay, doesn't work. Like we said, there's not a paid media format. But the brand still owes for that. There's still a media buy, quote unquote, that occurs in social media, and that's saying that we can take the portion of dollars that the brand would have paid to have me, Joe, say, hey, I really like Cherry Coke. It's refreshing and wonderful. I actually do like it. That's worth something to them, for you to take that extra step and say it, put the artwork on your page. And we pool that together, and we allow every member of SocialVibe.com to choose a charity, to donate all of the proceeds that they earn to. So for example, last month our members, without taking a dime out of their pockets, dug 3 wells, and I have a bracelet here for charity water. 3 wells in Africa got dug. one member in particular went out, recruited almost 10,000 people to sign up for SocialVibe to get more people to raise money for charity water. The brands paid the money, but they still achieved their marketing objectives, which is to spread the word of their brand. And Will Johnson, who's the COO at SocialVibe, brought a great stat to my attention, which is brands spend about $300 billion a year on advertising, and they spend $10 billion a year on philanthropic causes and good. They would love to spend more on philanthropy, but they need people to know that they're doing it, or they need to achieve their business. They need to achieve their objectives. So it's kind of like if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there, it doesn't make a sound. This is what we're saying is, if the brand says, okay, Joe, I will support whatever charity is near and dear to you. If you like my brand and you're willing to share it, do so. So basically what we've created is a marketplace for exchange. People have time, attention, participation, and their influence that they can share. And brands have their image. They have great artwork. I mean, the Goodbees and Ogilvy's and Saatchi's, all these great creative places build stuff that people want to have on their page. And then finally, they have the dollars that can be going to the causes that matter to people. And so SocialVibe is that place for exchange.
What's interesting is this fits a trend where authentic communication is being prized, and corporate social responsibility, I think, has moved from something perceived as they're playing defense, like with a cigarette company supporting art, to something that's really part of the meaning of the brand and the company.
It absolutely is.
So by taking that, the idea is, hey, help us do good, make good things happen.
Right.
As long as you like our brand and you let people know that we're doing this.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And I mean, there's a couple of elements that are really important that SocialVibe brings out, which is when you pair a brand with a charity, it's hard because imagine two concentric circles, like all the people that like the WWF and all the people that would be willing to support Coca-Cola.
Okay.
When you cross those two, there's a very thin area where the two overlap, and those are the only people you really hit. But if you, using SocialVibe, since everyone picks their own.
I think in the WWF in years past, it was a different kind of Coke that they were actively
Right, yes, that's a different WWF.
Sorry for the younger listeners.
Current WWF is the World Wildlife Foundation.
Oh, there you go. That's better. I was
that
like,
is,
WWF,
yes.
I'm like, okay, that's an interesting tie in the
wrestling.
Sorry,
we work with the World Wildlife Foundation, and yes, they actually sued the wrestling to get that name back, but another story.
And by the way, they treat the animals well there, so let's not get any wrong ideas from this.
Very well. So the idea is that instead, everybody picks their own charity, and then Coke says, support me and I'll support the charity that matters to you, because charities are deeply personal things. I care about a particular charity. I care about the right to vote and getting young people to vote, and Declare Yourself as is my current charity. It's a nonprofit out of LA that's run by Norman Lear. You could care about the World Food Program by the UN, which is also in there. And because of that, Coke is helping you support your cause and helping me support mine without having to associate with one.
One final question. Usually I like throwing a soft one at the end, but this is sort of a tougher one.
Sure.
On that is there any sort of dissonance that, in effect, SocialVibe is a profit-making entity, yet you're serving as a vehicle for companies to give away, but then you guys are making money?
Well, we're not a profit-making entity yet. Right now, more than 100% of revenue goes. But the goal is to be, to keep the lights on, to be like any other, ad network, which says, we have to find a way to balance the cost of running a business, and in order to run the business, to have investors come in and seed the money and get the capital, and then reward them for funding something that does good.
I should point out that you've done very effectively so far.
So far, so good. But then we need to show them the upside, and in exchange, the right balance of, in any ad network, you'll see the percentage that belongs to the publishers. That belongs to the people, right? That's what we're saying, is that 100% of the publisher share should go to people, and then that gets divvied up how they want to. The ad network side is really what deals with the brands and helping them get into social media and so forth. So.
Well, it's great. Well, what's nice is they're trying to get into it in a transparent way that, of course, they want to be transparent because it's about doing good. And I think you're also shedding light on how agencies are going to really have to start looking at things differently to compete, because how could an ad compete with something like this in the social media space? It can't.
Yeah, and that's the key for social media. Again, it just comes back to, it is measurable too. When you do something like this, when you start asking people to share your brand, all of a sudden you're beginning to realize that your source of media that is spreading your message is also your consumer, which means that you can ask them questions. How often are you buying Cherry Coke this week? How often are you buying it next week? Look at the results of your campaign. Look at the results of the things you're doing. Advertising becomes inherently measurable, where it never was before. Run a television ad and see if more people start picking you up in social media. Use social media to measure your offline advertising activities. It's all possible. It just requires actually engaging people. And I hate using terms that are fluffy and don't have a definition, so I'll define it and say that engagement is a guarantee that you had the chance to enhance your brand perception. So an impression is a page loads, and maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. A commercial is an impression. Maybe I saw it, maybe I didn't. Maybe I was paying attention. Engagement means you got my active attention for a certain period of time. I mean, Squishy will call it a couple of seconds.
Well,
so 5 seconds, call it 30 seconds.
Great, and that's the time we have, so I believe you've probably engaged our audience today.
Hopefully.
So thank you for being
No
part
problem.
of the video blog.
Thank you.